welcome back to What the Flicks reviews of Jessica Jones. I almost said AKA Jessica Jones on Netflix. I am Kim Horcher. This is Francis Maxwell, and this is Meredith Placko. William Bibiani could not join us today due to mind control. But today we'll be talking about episodes 7, 8, and 9, Top Shelf Perverts, WWJD, and Sin Bin. So let's more or less recap what's going on, and then hopefully we can discuss further in more or less chronological order. It's kind of hard given the binge nature of this show and that we did, all of us. So in Top Shelf Perverts, Jessica has developed a crazy plan to get herself locked up in Supermax so that she could draw out Kilgrave and get his cameras caught on camera, which she could use as evidence to help Hope out. Does not pan out that way.
Nope.
Ruben is killed by Kilgrave
Poor
after
guy can't catch a break.
saying, "Oh, I love her."
Poor guy just professes his love. I mean, he's coming from a controlling house where his sister is, I don't know what goes on behind those closed doors, and then he has a liking to Jessica, and what does it do? It gets him killed. Poor guy can't catch a break. I know.
Yeah, and then Jessica feels that guilt, I think.
Yeah, she does.
So afterwards, Malcolm and Trish try to help cover it up. It doesn't need to be covered up, though, because as we found out, Kilgrave has infiltrated the police station. And from that, he has developed a very chilling scene that you seem to like very much.
I just think that the writers of the show have a fantastic job of plunging us into darkness and then just dragging us back out to let us know that, I mean, we understand the despair and everything that goes along with this show, and that's why we love it, but they are so comedic almost in the way that they have him just utilize his abilities and show his sense of humor, because he has a wicked sense of humor.
Yeah,
he's a child.
He's a child.
He is a child.
Very much like the typical petulant child who's going to throw a temper tantrum.
I have to have my way, or I'm going to flip out and everyone's going to pay for it.
Yep.
But and so one of our directors actually said it here, but he's one of the only ones who finds his, I would say, his involvement slightly comedic at times. Like, he doesn't blame himself. And I'm not saying I agree with this. I just think it's great acting from him. Like, he never believes that he's in the wrong. So at the end of it, he's like, everyone, this is just a whole hilarious joke, just start laughing. And then they all just burst out laughing. And I was nervously laughing, but at the same time, I'm like, holy, this guy is just insane.
It shows he's a complete psychopath.
No
he
doubt.
doesn't understand human emotions or how his actions affect people.
Yeah, he is completely disconnected. He's a sociopath is exactly what he is.
Yeah. So what I do see from him, though, which I think we'll push over to the further episodes, is that he starts to kind of showcase his character and what has sculpted him to be this way, is that I think it becomes very frustrating for him that he can never tell whether he's controlling someone or someone is doing things on just to want to do things for him. And of course it makes it harder when all you do is do it. And that's what, but the only thing is, Kim, is I know that we often will look at this as like, he's such a bad guy, you have to agree. But the same thing is in Daredevil, is like, the reason it makes these villains so watchable is you need to understand their motive, and he can't just be evil. Most people can be, but he needs to have had a reason, and he's evil because he's so used to not being able to differentiate between these things. And we see it goes all the way back to his childhood, where he was probably punished for just throwing a tantrum, and it actually would come true.
I feel so in the case of Daredevil with Kingpin, they created a wonderful, great villain for a change where you understand him, you give him depth, you give him character. But Kingpin was not necessarily likable, but understandable, relatable for his actions. I think with Kilgrave, however, the acting is so good. I wonder if people are having a hard time differentiating themselves from liking the actor in the acting and then actually liking this character.
Yeah, because David Tennant, he was Doctor Who, a beloved character, and people do like him quite a bit. He did a great job in that role, and he's very lovable. But then we look at Kilgrave, who isn't, as you said, he isn't completely unrelatable, but that doesn't excuse what he's done, as is explored in WWJD episode 8, where he has, at the end of episode 7, he's taken Jessica into her home that he has set up to look exactly like it did the day she left for a disastrous car trip with her parents, and she's experiencing massive flashbacks and guilt and I think a hallucination or a dream of her parents and her brother blaming her and telling her to set it right. It's haunting her.
Yeah, and that's where the real horror of his character comes out, is that he doesn't take full blame, and when she starts to basically get plunged right into how dark their relationship was and talks about rape and everything that was associated with him, that's where I was really cringing at the screen, and it was so hard to kind of, it was a great scene, and it was it really explored how bad of a character he is because he doesn't place any blame on himself. Oh, I didn't make it, like you. This was
My
all part. This
parents
was like
didn't
my
give me
parents.
anything.
My parents didn't give me anything. And she says, like you just said, like boo-hoo. Like that doesn't mean you go ahead and you utilize your abilities to rape people and have them do what you want them to do. And that's where it really started to take such a dark turn for me.
That was a really strong scene, and I'm glad they included it because it makes you feel uncomfortable. But you should feel uncomfortable with something like
Yeah,
this. This is rape of the mind.
Yeah.
And the body,
And
literally.
what's great is they didn't have to showcase the rape. We never had to go back and see that in a flashback. We just had to, talk about it, and we got to see, as you say, the rape of the mind. We got to see, other evidence of it, but we know the physical rape also happened. And another thing that was so just insidious about this episode is because Kilgrave did not use his powers on Jessica.
Yeah.
We really got to see just what a typical abuser looks like in this. We see that, while you could see that, we were talking before the show that this looks like an ordinary couple having a fight, but, take it to that next level. This is what the cycle of abuse looks like.
Yeah.
You don't need superpowers. This is how you control a person.
Yeah, and I think when you strip it back without all the powers involved, it can be related to those who have potentially suffered the same as this, is because what Kilgrave's trying to do without his powers is trying to make Jessica think she's to blame. And how many times do we see these cases that come out in the media and it's like, oh, she was asking for it, or this was all like
I
I
deserved
it,
I
and
did
this is what it
something
stands.
bad.
And it's like such a disgusting way of putting trying to soften how hard of I would say a talking point this is. And I think they do it pretty well. It's almost like a tongue-in-cheek way of saying this is how bullshit that argument is in mainstream media. It's ridiculous.
And he even tries, he isolates her from her friends.
Yeah.
He, even gives her a reward in when the neighbor comes over, the nosy neighbor who starts to take a giant crap all over Jessica's memory of her fantasy.
Yeah.
Well, he gives her that little bit of like, look, I'll take care of you by making her reveal about how terrible this woman really is and how she sees herself. And Jessica's even like, wow, no, that did feel good.
Yeah.
And it's he's manipulating her.
Well, those powers are attractive.
Yeah.
And those are things that we would like to know and would like to hear. They're cathartic. But maybe, it's seductive, but maybe we shouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
And then he goes further on to show his lack of empathy by further using that nosy neighbor to explode
Wow, I know.
herself with the bomb that Simpson had planted under the house, intending to kill Simpson. On that note, though, I did like the conversation Simpson and Trish had, where he says, we have to kill this man. There's nothing we can do. And she says, no, we have to take him alive. We have to do this. We have to, make sure he gets his due process. It's an interesting way to think of, can a person be rehabilitated, or are there hopeless people out there who deserve to die?
That's kind of the theme of this episode is, can Kilgrave be rehabilitated? We look at that with the scene where Jessica takes him to the hostage situation, and Kilgrave is like, well, we'll just have him, shoot himself, the father.
He said, I legitimately thought this was the right thing to do. I can't do this on my own.
Yeah.
And Jessica's like, no. And he's like, well, I need you, Jessica, to be my conscience.
And where is it? And that's where it switches. Who's now in control of the mind play? It's Jessica utilized her own ability to convince him that they actually could have went somewhere. So she was, and it's so funny. It's so contrary to what he uses his powers to do. She's using the same thing, but obviously to try and get him to believe that there's something to
That
push
he can
forward
still
to,
be
that he
good.
can still be good. And that was just such a smart. That's the only way you can kind of get through to him.
She believed it too, because she was like,
well,
oh,
I don't know if it was just her
fuck.
convincing.
I just realized something. I have to go on a walk. And she goes to talk to Trish and be like, what would you do if, you were the only one, if you could harness his powers for good?
Yeah.
And she doesn't want, Trish, I think she would do what Jessica thinks she can do, but
I think
doesn't
I
really.
think Trish is really kind of like the unsung hero of this episode. She really, falls into her own, because I know she's trying to make up for her own perceived lack of ability to take care of everything from the previous episode when she was rendered unconscious. But I really think Trish just kind of saved the day by not allowing Jessica to do that with Kilgrave, because essentially, if Jessica went off with Kilgrave to go be this power duo of saving the world, it's no different than what Hogarth wanted to do with
exactly.
Kilgrave. Remember when she was like, oh, well, what if we just use his powers for good to win cases?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, and you see that coming out in Hogarth when she is just doing whatever she can to blow it. Like she wants to just try, she's so close to letting him out, which I was just screaming at the screen, why are you doing it? And she's looking at to try and obviously free up her life. She's trying to get rid of her ex who won't allow the divorce to take full fold. And then she is pushed over into this decision by her, at the moment, her mistress saying that she wants her to be dominant again, right? She's saying that she needs her to take control, and if she doesn't,
That was a
then
great
she's
seduction
That was a
scene.
great
Yeah.
seduction scene.
Yeah.
It blew my mind.
I wanted to talk about Hogarth. We haven't really touched on her yet, but this whole time she's been in this divorce proceedings with her ex-wife Wendy and her new girlfriend, whose name escapes me. And it seems she keeps saying, "Jessica, you haven't helped me. Jessica, do this. Jessica, I need you. Stop
Yeah.
thinking about that. This is the only thing. Focus on this." And you feel this is tension rising. You know,
Yeah.
this is going to come to a head. And it seems like it's starting to by the time we reach episode 9.
Yeah.
But I sort of felt sympathy for Hogarth at one point when they were doing the arbitration with the lawyers, and she said, "I fell in love. I'm not a monster. You know, I still like you." But then you feel again she's manipulating her. So I don't really know if she has good intentions or if she's kind of similar to Kilgrave in a way.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is like, because is what she wanting Jessica to do and try to attach herself to her own case? Is she not trying to control Jessica in the same way that you might think that Kilgrave's trying to control her in her own way? She's utilizing her for her own personal gain. And what I also like is the dynamic with Hogarth and her relationship is it's like, people don't often think about divorce cases when it comes to same-sex marriages and who takes that kind of role of the hardships. Like, she is now facing the brunt of what many people assume males face. If they're divorced from a female, they won't give in too easy and they'll hold on to assets. So it's trying to see how she would deal with this. And she takes up what many would assume a predominantly male thing to do, is go ahead and take the thing into your own hands. And that's what she's thinking when she's going in to try and get Kilgrave to be released so that she can get out of the situation that she's got herself into.
Yeah, I think Hogarth is there for Hogarth, and I think ultimately she is going to do what's best for her, and I think that's great. I think it's a strong female aspect for herself, but I don't necessarily agree with what she does, but I think she's such a fascinating character on screen, and I think just one of the ways they flesh out all the different characters in the Jessica Jones universe. But what she's doing in this particular episode is borderlining like, I just kind of want to be like, Hogarth, you should know better.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so the last sequence was pretty intense.
Let's move on to the action of episode
Yeah.
9, the sin bin, which is, we learn more. Well, at this point, Jessica has tricked and captured Kilgrave, put him into Simpson's
On little
cell,
hell.
Yeah,
and is trying to get a confession out of him. And Hogarth reminds her, no, this is not going to be admissible. So she decides to go on her own mission to find his parents.
Yeah.
And that turns out disastrously.
It turns out pretty awful, and it's a very compelling scene. You can see that. I thought he had a trick up his sleeve.
Yeah.
I honestly thought he was going to not give in to obviously all the hurt and pain that was brought up with him. What I don't get is when everyone was running away from everything, why did no one grab the camera straight away? That should be the first thing that should be. I know that everyone wants to save
a
the.
guy who does video for a living.
I know,
You're
but I'm thinking
about...
you got to if you're going through all of this to get Hope out of jail, you got to grab the video camera. That should be the first thing, because I wouldn't be surprised if Jessica goes back and something might be wrong there, because the only thing that failed the situation was technology. She couldn't press the button in time to save his mother from her eventual death. But it was another chilling scene, to be honest. It was crazy.
It was pretty scary. So he escapes.
Yeah.
He's got his mother is dead. His father's trying to kill himself. The detective's in his pocket now because Trisha shot the window open, and now he's able to utilize his powers again. There's no stopping him, and he's gone. But Jessica makes a major realization that she should have realized much sooner, but sure.
Yeah. I think it's amazing. Jessica, Kilgrave tells her to stop.
She doesn't stop.
She doesn't. Jessica's free.
She's always been free.
She tells him.
Well, not always.
She's been free since the moment that she walked away after killing Luke's wife.
Yeah.
But when he says to her, last point in this, when he says, "Let go of me, Jessica," does she not intentionally do that, but in full realization that she doesn't have to let go, so that he doesn't think that she's immune to his powers, so that leaves him susceptible, right? Because if he thinks that he can still control her,
He had a
but he
second
can't.
where he
Yeah.
was like shocked.
Yeah, there's a
in
moment.
his
There's
eye.
definitely a beat there where it's like, wait, did
And
that?
then he calls
yeah.
the detective to stop her.
But the way I thought about it was Jessica let go of him, but also realized at the same time she didn't have to let go of him, so that when she goes back to bench, obviously get back at him again, that he might think he can control her, and she could use that to her advantage. It's that way that you're one step ahead of that antagonist who thinks he's got every base covered, because he can plan everything around it, and he can tell her to do what he thinks he can do, but if she isn't under his full control, she's always one step ahead.
That's an interesting thought. I will not spoil that for you.
Meredith has watched ahead, and we have not, but we will get there. This is interesting to know that Jessica cannot be controlled by Kilgrave.
Yeah.
What she will do next is a mystery to us, but you may know already. Please join us next week as we continue our reviews of Jessica Jones, episodes 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
We will see.